think it's time to play Flip the Book. Are you keen? All right.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. So we've got 3 books, so you don't get to see them. So book 1, 2, or 3?
2.
2. Okay, that's what we refer to as the big book, Your Insight and Awareness book. So it's full of concepts about exploring your self-awareness. So you actually have 1 to 430 pages to pick from.
217.
270. You got 5 paragraphs to pick from.
3.
3. Okay, so when you prefer to battle reality, seeking control of your existence instead of accepting who you are, you become insipid towards the truth of your soul and recoil from the truth you naturally feel. This leaves you opposing your ability to feel the truth of your soul as you fight for supremacy over the exposure of truth. When you desperately want to create balance between your different energies, you often disregard the potential of resolution. That's probably where you started and what you've explored most of your life, I would say. Adult
Absolutely.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I teach that. It sounds like that's what I teach when I'm teaching non-resistance to what is.
Yes. Because that is major. Like even for myself, I know that I chased for a long time why. Why? It was full of questions, but they all come down to why. And then what I realized, which I was slow to the party, was that I was fighting reality and creating more of the same of what I was trying to avoid.
Yep.
So once I realized that, I started telling myself, don't fight it. Reality is, and there's a lot of effort from all different strains of energy and people, etc., for this moment to be occurring. So don't be so arrogant to believe that I can change it. So be honest and present in it, and be an objective observer so that you're not fighting for supremacy over truth and reality, because you're only going to try and convert it to something that lets you hide all your stuff anyway.
Yep. Yeah.
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 It's interesting. So there's another part to that if you want me to read the next
Sure.
part out. Okay.
Sure.
So you may want to be the controller of peace within yourself while you deny the reality of your life, yourself, others, relationships, and truth. This means you assess peace as the ability to control the external world to suit, pacify, and gratify your unresolved emotions, because you do not want your emotions to disturb your illusion of control. You internally know peace comes from accepting reality and choosing to harmonize with truth. To be at peace and in harmony with truth, you have to trust being an evolving soul on a journey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now, I love the soliloquy by Shakespeare in Hamlet, to be or not to be. That is the question.
yeah,
And he was thrashing against his reality, right?
yes.
And he didn't want to accept his reality. His father was killed by his uncle, and now was sleeping with his mother. I mean, it was a mess, you know. And he comes back, and he doesn't want to accept this reality. He ends up killing his girlfriend's brother. I mean, it's an absolute mess. And that reminds me of one of the biggest breakthrough moments of my life is when the doctor said to me, "You better listen to your body because your body's listening to you." I was revolting against my unhappiness. I didn't want to
Yeah,
be unhappy. I didn't want to accept that my marriage was failing. I didn't want to accept it because it meant so much loss. It meant a divorce. It meant the kids had to go to a different school. It meant divorcing this man who was not going to be kind. So that acceptance meant I'm letting go of the shreds of control I think I have,
yeah,
and I am walking off a cliff into an abyss.
yeah,
So accepting that, not fighting against reality, is so courageous because oftentimes the reality that we're fighting, we're trying to control what little shreds of life that we have that we think we can control, but we're ignoring the self.
yeah.
We're ignoring the self. And so it is so courageous to watch someone be a caterpillar and then turn into a butterfly, to go into that darkness, to take the risk of that transformation, because you don't know how far you can fly once you step off that cliff.
Yeah.
You don't know. And then most of the time, all of our fears do come to the surface. He's going to be mean. He was. My family's going to abandon me. They did. The kids are going to be a mess. They were. Like, I don't have a job. I don't. Like, everything that I was afraid of happening actually happened. Right? So it was like,
Yeah.
what have I done to myself? But it was like, it got to a point where, like what you're saying, I couldn't deny how unhappy I was anymore. So it was like,
Yeah.
I have to step off this cliff. I say, okay, bring it on. Bring it up. Yep. Here it comes. Yep, yep, yep. Answer the credit cards. Yep. 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 Kids hate me. Yep. 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 Yeah.
And
It just,
one thing people don't realize too, you can be courageous and look completely messy, because you're going to go, I mean, I'm sure in that stage you looked extremely messy and you were,
yeah.
yeah. We
Crying
won't
with
give you great.
peanut butter and the vanilla ice cream, like waking up with vanilla ice cream all over the bed. Oh yeah, it was a mess. It was so, but that's why I say my podcast is Breakdown to Breakthrough, because
Yeah.
I was falling apart, but I was really falling together. So everything that was not me was being ripped off of me. All of my attachments that my ego thought I needed, they were being ripped from me. Like a crane was ripping them off me. And I felt naked. I felt afraid. I felt vulnerable. I felt powerless. But I just knew that that truth, that painful truth, was better than living in denial and living in this facade of a life. That pain was better. That was truthful. It was
Yeah.
real, and I
Yeah.
could trust it. And that was me embracing. Yep, this sucks. This is my journaling. Yep, my life sucks. Yep, I cried all day. Yep, I had diarrhea for a week. Yep, freaking out. Like, yep. Like, just, yep, this sucks. Yep, just honoring it. This sucks.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
literally going to this emotional detox where these cancerous emotions were just like, oh,
Mm.
coming through me. And it was just detox. Yep. Just constant validation, because I had been so suppressed my entire life. Don't feel that. Don't think that. So something switched in my head where I thought, this shit, this pain is truthful.
Yeah.
And it's better. I'd rather be alive in pain and acknowledging and embracing how horrible this is than be back there again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
eventually it started to calm down. My
Yes.
business took off. I finished The Road Back to Me. Um, really, it just, things started to just roll for me. My book went to Amazon bestseller overnight. Then I created the next one within 6 months. I was on a roll.
Yeah.
Once I
Brilliant.
came out of that fire, it was like whoosh. The energy that created worlds was really, I found it. I found it. The
Yeah.
truth. The truth sets you free. As ugly as it is, as painful as it is, it sets you free.
Yeah. I called mine the cracking,
Yeah.
because once it started to crack, I was aware too. I was aware of a lot of things, but I felt trapped in the financial codependency.
Totally.
So yeah, so it was kind of like I had my world over here, and when that cracking started, I really had no choice in what was going to happen after that. Like, it was like a volcano, and it just kept coming and coming and coming, and I lost all sense of foundation underneath myself, and that scared me. I was reacting to a way I didn't recognize in myself. Like, I'm pretty stable, and I felt completely unstable, and I couldn't stop crying, but it was crying for me, which I think was the first time I'd ever done that. Like I actually really cried for the reality that I had experienced. And then everything just come up. So there was all these different stories, and they were truths, they were events, they were experiences. It was what people had said and how people reacted, and childhood stuff and all the rest of it. So I just decided I'm not going to fight it. So if I was in the fetal position, I was in the fetal position. If I was staring out a window, watching the clouds, that's what I'm doing. And I just let it keep coming out, but I kept getting honest about it, and I kept seeing my contribution as well. Not, I did a lot of blame, but then eventually that changed to, okay, how did I turn up to this dance? You know what I mean? Like, so how did I turn up? So then I could start backtracking.
Yep.
And I was fairly self-aware originally, you know what I mean? Like, but it was just another layer, and I just accepted it was another layer. It was I call it the soul denial, the Pandora's box of all the stuff where you deny who you are and you store it in there. So, and then I was like, there's another side. This is a tunnel, and I will get there. And I was really lucky too. I had a lot of really good support that just listened.
Awesome.
They didn't come in and start telling me what to do or how to fix myself or what I should do next. They just listened as I started to really come to terms with what it was that was in my Pandora's box. So, and yeah, so I look back at the cracking, as I call it, as one of the best things that ever happened. Now, I would not have said that while I was in it, but I can really honestly say that now, and I wouldn't go back.
No, no.
No.
There's a price for self-mastery,
Yes, there is.
you have to pay an admission price.
Yes.
There are no free
I
lunches.
like that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, like, that crappy experience is just that's you paying your dues for self-mastery, you know?
Yeah,
Um, there's just no other you can't get to the top of the mountain without going through that,
true.
and that's just the way it is, but, having these types of conversations are helpful because they help people, accept that the path to enlightenment and healing is painful.
Yes, it
It
is.
is painful
Yes.
because you're gonna have to, face all of these ego attachments that you believed in to get to the other side of non-attachment,
Yeah. Because you're
right?
actually codependent on I wrote a lot about this years ago. You're codependent on your resistance, denial, and avoidance.
Yeah.
You pull it around like a little wagon behind you, and you codependently work out which one you think's going to help you in this situation so that you're not confronted. But it's like lean in a little bit, and
Yeah, yeah. It's a fabulous journey, but it's a tough journey indeed, it's
yeah,
a tough but like you said, it's like I wouldn't go back. And today, I mean, I have this program that's helping so many people, and the process is awakening, accountability, and ascension. So
lovely.
you have to awaken, then you have to take accountability. What's your part in it? Then you can ascend. But
Yes,
and it has to be in that order. It can't. I've seen so
yes,
many people like think they're where they need to be, and they ricochet back.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's
And
fabulous.
you will go through, I always explain to people, every emotion, every belief, every fear has got layers. So when you might be doing the surface of it, you might be doing the middle of it, you might have found a few layers within that as well. And even if you hit another pocket, it's not that you haven't dealt with the stuff already, it's another layer. And that's a good thing. You're pacing yourself down. Whereas I see some clients where they're going, I thought I'd fixed my resentment. It's just another layer. It's
Yep.
just, you've acknowledged this part. Here's another part. Just keep coming with it, because they worry that they're just repeating, repeating, repeating. But if you can see the difference, even if it's slight, it's another layer.
Yeah.
So if there's movement and growth, otherwise you're just ruminating and you're just playing in the energy of it. So
Absolutely. When I
yeah.
first got divorced, I thought that my ex-husband and I were codependent. I didn't know I was codependent. I thought we. And so what do? I attract another highly narcissistic person, and then another one, and then another one, and then one more, and then it hit me. It's no, I'm codependent. Like I'm a carbon
Surprise.
copy of her. Right, but it was just shocked me where I thought, "Oh, I'm gonna get a divorce because we're codependent." No, 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 no.
Yeah.
No, 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 no. That's where I was at that stage, like what you're saying, that was that layer. And then it
Yeah.
was another layer. And then finally, I asked myself, like you, self reflective, like, how did I end up here? And the answer
Yeah.
came, you're still ignoring red flags. And I was like,
Yes.
oh, I don't know. It was like, wow, I asked self, spirit, how did I get up here? How did I end up here again? I thought I was doing so well. You ignored the red flag we sent you.
One of the things that I realized is that I had this belief that if I sacrificed myself, if I dulled down my shine, if I put myself out of kilter with myself or any of those things, that you, whoever I'm trying to be friends with or partner, etc., mother, all those things, you would appreciate that I've done that.
Right.
And I don't know where that started, but I had it. So I classed that as something that I was strong enough to do. So
Correct.
I had this ego thing going on. Okay, I can handle this, and how I can handle this. But eventually you don't handle these patterns that are of your authenticity. And then you realize that you've been doing damage to yourself because of the patterns that you've played out on the experience you were having. And that's a hard thing to face, is that, that you are the co-creator in all of this as well. It's
Yeah.
because a lot of people get stuck on the blame, like it's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault. And the trouble with that is you won't heal anything, you won't grow from there. So
Yeah. And that's I try to do that. I had a client say to me the other day, she's like, you're the only person that can tell me that I'm effed up and I'm not upset. The way you tell me that, well, like you explain it in a way that's like, oh, okay, I can see my part in it,
yeah,
right? I can see my
yeah,
part in it, and that's where, the codependency and the narcissism field, especially on YouTube, I hear a lot of like it's the narcissist's fault, right? And on face value, it looks like, well, of course, I'm the codependent and I'm giving and this
yeah,
person's taking, right? So, and I get that, but then we want to say, well, one's good and one's bad, right? We want to tie things up in a bow, like we watch a 30-minute sitcom, and oh, there's peace in the world. That's not the way this works, right? So
yes,
if I'm not exerting a boundary, I'm not showing up as my true self and advocating for myself, I'm going to get into trouble, whether it's at work, whether it's in a friendship, whether it's a partnership in business. Right? So
yes,
rather than I try to ask people, don't see it as good or bad. Just how did I get here?
yes, exactly.
How did
That
I
is
get
very good. Yeah.
here?
And if you
And
are sitting in that self-loathing and the self-judgment, that's not helping you either. And it's hard to come out of. Like I respect that it's hard to come out of, but that is one of the first things you need to deal with as well. Is like, loosen up a little bit on yourself and don't feel like you're to blame for everything as
correct,
well.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's two sides of that coin. So it's either I'm going to blame myself or I'm going to blame that other person. But there's
Yeah.
no power in blaming yourself or blaming the other person. There is
Yeah.
power in how did I get here from an objective consciousness. Like how did I get here? Like what did I ignore?
Yeah.
That's powerful because that puts you in the driver's seat. Because if you could see what you did wrong, you're actually in control of that next time. That's where your power lies.
Yeah. Love that. Love that. Well, thank you. I've appreciate your time and I've enjoyed the conversation.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much. This has been great.